Welcome to the bulletin. We begin on a sad note. The community of Sakrawono is in a state of mourning as mortal remains of the former Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission, Kojo Osefrie, has been laid in state for mourners to file past. Rites for the journey home for the politician started this morning. Dignitaries, including the President, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, are expected to be at the occasion to pay their last respects. Nana Jima is at the grounds currently, and he joins us currently speaking, as we said earlier, is Johnson Esedun Ketia, who is General Secretary of the NDC.
5,000.
We'll go back to Sakrawono a bit later in the bulletin. In the meantime, city authorities here in Accra say they will go ahead with the planned relocation of spare parts traders from their Abossey-Okai base. The traders have in the last few weeks accused their leaders of committing to the relocation without their consent. The leaders, however, insist they consulted the traders. My colleague Joseph Akable was at the spare parts hub, where city authorities say they will go ahead with the relocation despite the concerns.
City authorities were joined by armed police and military men to undertake the cleanup exercise, which forms parts of the overall decongestion exercise that is underway. As some of the persons here who sell items, the spare parts, who more often than not are on this particular route, had their own thoughts about the exercise that is ongoing.
First, we have to think of the people who are here. They are living with their family. Now, when you sack him from the place he's selling, what will be his end? He'll get into stealing and robbery.
Look at over almost 25, 26 years. But to find new place to us, I can just say,
his main concern has to do with the relocation, and he says that there are people who have rented stores here, and so if anyone is suggesting that all of them would have to move from here, that is impossible and it will not happen. But for some of them to relocate, that is fine, but it would also depend on how the market situation is at that particular side.
I'll be 10 years. Now, if I'm
the leadership of the Spare Parts Association have been responding to the concerns that have been raised by some of the members. They insist that majority of the members are actually in support of the decision to have them relocated from this side of town.
If they say it is too far, then I don't know where they are coming from, because it is 3 areas that has been proposed: Amasamai, Dahunya, and then Afienya. We are even yet to even visit the site and ascertain which one will be of relevance to us. It is not cast in stone that we are going to Afienya, that is being bandied around in the press. That is not how it is. We are here to visit the place and make our own choice. You understand? We have to put a lot of things into consideration before we come to a conclusion. So it is not cast in stone that, as people are saying, we are going to Afienya, we are going to Afienya. It is not like that. And we don't want people to create the impression that it is the government, and for that matter, the regional minister, who is forcing us to relocate. It is not like that. It is our initiative, and only they are throwing and facilitating, the program. They are throwing their support and facilitating the program for us. So people should not think that government is imposing something on us. Government.
Get your members on board.
Why not? This is what I'm telling you, that a general meeting was convened.
The general, but yet they still say that they don't want to go.
And I'm telling you, you cannot achieve 100% efficiency in whatever you do. But if you achieve 60-65%, it is good. When the meeting was held here, about 80% acceded, to the project.
The MCE explains that this is an exercise that will help, and so that people should be committed to it.
Those we are taking off the streets, we've talked to the executives. You see, they can manage in front of, behind the gutters. We just want the road to be free. If you had come here yesterday also, you will see where we are
actually seen the place. They are always on the road, even virtually in the middle.
Yeah, so we are just directing them to manage and go behind the gutters. so that by the time we finish with Afienya or Dowena there, they will all get a bigger place to go there. It will not be easy, but at least we must try for them to see that we for once we are really serious. You see, yeah.
And you are not worried about the possible political implications. I mean, we listen to the people. They say that, look, they don't want to move from this place.
Oh yeah, that's for that one. You get it. But when the political head, they get to know that you are doing a good job, people will go and talk or report. They will say, because the regional minister is the political head in the region. And he is leading this in conjunction with the assembly, myself, and the executive. So there's no cause for alarm.
And so the exercise continues to rid the city of filth, and also the long-term goal of relocating the traders here at Abosokai. Reporting for Joy News, my name is Joseph Akable.
The live on Joy News today. Now, Deputy Minister Designate for Energy, William Orekoedu, says efforts are ongoing to help the Electricity Company of Ghana recover about 200 million cedis from Power Distribution Services PDS, which the latter has allegedly refused to pay. Following the botched PDS ECG deal, Boko Central MP Mahama Ayariga claims PDS has not transferred the said amount, which was sitting in its account, to ECG. The Deputy Minister Designate says he is unsure of the figure, but the issue will be dealt with. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo has been observing the vetting, and he joins us live. Joseph, what else has Mr. Edu been telling the committee? Joseph, if you can hear me, brief us on the ongoing activities at Mr. Orekoedu's vetting. Right, we will soon be speaking to Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, who is coming to us live from Parliament. Now, the key issue that has been raised in the vetting of William Orekoedu, Deputy Energy Minister Designate, is the status of the PDS deal. If you will recall, some years back, ECG was handed out on a concession arrangement to private management, and that was Power Distribution Services, PDS. Now, that deal came to naught as a result of some suspected fraud in the documentation that was presented by PDS. Now, ECG then took the reins of the management of power distribution in the country once again. But the controversy has been about some 200 million Ghana cedis, which Power Distribution Services is alleged to have accrued in terms of electricity bills and what have you, and is yet to transfer to the Electricity Company of Ghana. And those issues have been petering out at the vetting of William Orekoedu. Let us currently join that process now.
Minister. And so Daniel, the vetting process is ongoing as we speak. The first person who is appearing before the committee is the Deputy Minister Designate for the Energy Sector. That's William Orekoedu, and he's been addressing a number of issues in response to the questions from the committee members. One interesting issue that's come up is that there is an amount of 200 million Ghana cedis that the MP for Boko Central, Mahama Ayariga, says is money that's supposed to belong to the ECG that previously was sitting in the account of PDS, and following the botched ECG PDS issue, well, there's been demand from ECG that the said amount be handed back to them from PDS. But according to Mr. Ayariga, the information that he has shows that this transfer has still not happened, and he's deeply concerned about this. He's been asking questions of when this amount will be transferred back to ECG, but the Deputy Minister Designate for the Energy Sector explains that this is something that has come to his attention and they are still looking further into that. But he assures that the reconciliation will be done, and the indication will be given as to how much specifically the amount is in order to allow for the payment of these sums. Beyond that, he's also been talking about efforts that are ongoing to ensure that Ghana relies more on renewable energy than fossil fuel. And specifically, he says efforts are ongoing to introduce electric vehicles in Ghana, he says that there's a company that's building solar plants in Ghana as well that's actually working to ensure that solar energy also becomes a very dominant part of the country's energy mix. He's also been addressing concerns having to do with the energy sector debt, which he says is very much difficult to decipher because then it's a very much complicated space. But he's also been indicating that efforts are ongoing to introduce more private sector participation in the energy sector so that then there is stable power for all. Daniel.
So, Joseph, who else is coming before the committee today?
And so we are expecting 3 other individuals to appear before the committee today. We are expecting that the Deputy Minister Designate for the Finance Ministry, that's Abena Osei-Asare, will be appearing before the committee a little later today. Also, the Deputy Minister Designate for Agriculture, Yao Frimpong Ado, will also be appearing before the committee today. And then a 3rd minister, who is a Deputy Minister Designate for the railway sector, will also be appearing before the committee. But it's been well close to 2 hours since the first of them appeared before the committee, and looks like they are far from done with the conversation with him.
Very interesting, Joseph. Is the House currently sitting? Are there any other issues going on in the House itself?
The House itself is expected to begin sitting any moment from now. Mainly, we're expecting a litany of statements from the various members of Parliament. The issue having to do with the private members' bill, pushing for a sort of investigative committee into the issue with recruitment into security agencies. Well, the private members' motion has been tabled all week, and it's on the agenda as well for today, but it's not been dealt with. We're waiting to see if that will be dealt with. But one other thing that's come up is that sometime yesterday, there were some officials from
Joseph,
the
ACHIMOTA. Thank you very much, Joseph, for joining us from Parliament. Let's now take you straight to Sakra-Wono in the Ashanti region, where the final funeral rites of Sir John Kojo Osei-Afriyie are being held. Nanayao Jima is standing by. Nanayao, what's happening now?
Kojo Osei-Afriyie, popularly known as Sir John, for burial here at Sakra-Wono. Not long ago, the president made a donation of 100,000 cedis towards the burial, and also other members of the party and CEOs of various public institutions also made donations towards the burial of the former CEO of the Commission. Very soon, the casket, as I said earlier, will be lifted for burial. And before that, there was tribute read by various individuals here, including President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo. And in his tribute, Nana Akufo-Addo said the former CEO of the Forestry Commission, late Kojo Osei-Afriyie, had a lot of belief in him, especially in his bid to be president. Even after he lost a court, even after decision, when he appealed the 2012 general elections, and Sir John made his belief in the president known in every interview that he did. And today, that the former CEO of the Forestry Commission is no more, he is saddened by the situation. So we had a tribute read by the National New Patriotic Party, which the John Boadu, who is the General Secretary, party also says they will miss him dearly for his contribution towards the 2016 general elections, and also his contribution to keeping the party intact whenever they went to the election, especially when he was general secretary of the party. So it's been a sad situation for the people of Sakra-Wono, as a number of people know. He went giving stories about making the place very popular. So this funeral being held here have everybody in Sakra-Wono coming to the funeral grounds.
Nanayao Jima there, coming to us live from Sakra-Wono, which is the venue for the funeral of the late Kojo Ewusu-Efriye, former Chief Executive for the Forestry Commission. Let's move to other stories. And civil society group One Ghana Movement has initiated a class action bringing the cause to compel the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, the National Petroleum Authority and GOIL to pay compensation to the victims of the June 3 flood and fire disaster that claimed 159 lives. More on that shortly, but as we look at that day, it still brings painful memories to many Ghanaians.
What started the night before as a heavy downpour at the center of the country's capital, Kwame Nkrumah Circle, was aggravated after a nearby fuel station exploded in the downpour, leaving an estimated 159 Ghanaians lifeless, while scores also sustained varying degrees of burns and injuries. Whilst the rain was seen as a natural occurrence, the fire, which worsened the situation, was later said to have been caused by a cigarette smoker who dropped a lighter stub into water that had oil floating on top of it. Some victims of the disaster recounts the day.
I'm about to run before the fire catch me for the face. So I had to feather into water, then I had to swim in the water and wake up. Because that night was horrible. When I started to
To prevent a future occurrence of the tragedy that hit the country on June 3rd, the Disaster Committee recommended the complete dredging of the door drain, a ban on the use of plastic as carrier bags, water dispensers, and cooked food containers. It also suggested standardized training, certification, and licensing of filling stations attendants, the creation of sanitation police, compulsory fitting of all commercial vehicles with refuse baskets or bins, and equipping of disaster managers with the requisite tools to effectively handle disasters.
Now, as we heard in that report, the committee recommended the dredging of the Odo River. So what is the state of the basin that runs through Circle and parts of the Central Business District? My colleague Benjamin Akapo was at the place and now reports.
Every year it's all about flood. Every year flood. Every year flood. Every year flood.
For the over 30 years you've been here?
Yeah, during Rawlings' regime, the flood came only 95, and that's it. Until recently, they've done a shoddy job here, which has cost us a lot. Every time when...
What is that shoddy job? Let's talk about it.
There's a gutter that they've constructed, which the olden days, they've done it open, big. Now they've closed it, they've make it narrow and then cover the top. So when it rains, even pure water, when you pour water on the floor, it will flood. So anytime when it's about to rain, I have to leave Abilimpe. When I'm not at work, I have to come to work and move all the cars out of the yard before the whole place gets...
The water here, even for this June, July, we are in headache. We are in big headache. But so far as we are always accepting those kind of pressure and those kind of the problem we are in here. We always face it because it has been addressed that we well every year. We don't worry about it, but actually we have been complaining several times.
Up to 9 o'clock. Na yenya baby a be fanti ye san ye chikofa akasapa FM ho ene ye be fa adwaneti ena yenya fridge bi asai ena ye matre ye bomodian etra fridge ni suba ha ye be ba na nsuo asai miniama ni na manfa 1000 manfa 50 pesos yes ra man penyi se ye how kese wo do na ha esisi kunyen amadun tad no ye nuanu bebre ahwe omun kwan fi so mun niamenti Yesu na junted no ye wa nyame nkwa no yi mi free mu omo amini omu nam nyame ngo biabiam yesra man penyisa ye panatew ye ma ye ni buafo ye ni kunu mu ye ane ye hwe ba ye ane ye hwe fie enti yesra man penyi se onhu ye mobo pa se gota no
Now, the victims of the disaster in the One Ghana movement have, through their lawyers, commenced a class action against GOIL, the National Petroleum Authority, and the Accra Metropolitan Authority for what they refer to as their complicity in the disaster. Let's look at the statements by One Ghana movement. It reads, torrential rainfall which affected most parts of the country turned into a devastating fire and flood catastrophe, resulting in the death of 154 people. Hundreds suffered severe burns in the unfortunate incident which occurred on June 3, 2015. This marked a dark day in the history of Ghana, with surviving victims suffering permanent physical disabilities which to date severely undermine their suitability for the job market. The report of the Ministerial Committee that investigated the disaster attributed it to the floods, poor safety practices at the GOIL filling station, and a cigarette spark by a person who has since been identified. The floods were attributed to blockages in Accra's main storm drains, resulting from the non-desilting of the drains, as well as the building of settlements and habitation of squatters in the storm drains. The lower parts of the Odo River in the area known as Sodom and Gomorrah have been blocked by settlers who had reclaimed substantial portions of the Odo Channel and built houses, mosques, churches, and a market on it, thereby reducing the discharge capacity of the Odo Channel into the Koli Lagoon. All these findings can be attributed to human causes, for which there are regulatory bodies to ensure that the right statutes are enforced to prevent such disasters from recurring. Why then was no action taken to forestall this devastation? It is to this end that, in accordance with the One Ghana movement, citizen responsibility and policy accountability objectives, the J4J3 project was launched on June 2, 2017 to pursue the following aims. First, increase transparency and accountability in public financial management. Second, hold corporations, public officials, and institutions accountable. Third, secure equitable compensation for victims. And fourth, to encourage citizens' participation in governance and increase their engagement with national and local authorities. Now, there's also a statement from government signed by the Works and Housing Minister, Francis Asenso-Boakye. Let's look at that. Now, it says 6 years ago, the lives of about 152 Ghanaians were lost, while scores of others sustained various degrees of injuries through a twin disaster, an explosion at the GOIL filling station at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, and flooding of several parts of the capital city. The unfortunate incident brought a major setback to individuals, families, and businesses, among others, due to the trickling down of its rippling effects. Today, as the nation commemorates 6 years of the infamous June 3 tragedy, government commiserates with the families and loved ones of the victims of this disaster. Our thoughts and prayers remain with them. It also says government under the leadership of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo will continue to intensify efforts aimed at finding lasting solutions to the perennial flooding in Accra and other parts of the country. Now, in line with this, government has collaborated with the World Bank to invest $200 million to, among others, implement the Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development GARID project. The project will mitigate flood risk and address the solid waste management challenges in the Odo drainage basin, where the unfortunate event occurred. It also involves the reconstruction of some bridges to remove identified impediments to the flow of water in the basin where it rains. Let's move to other stories. And Oheniba Kwekwin-Krabia, one of the two Rastafarian students who was earlier denied admission by ACHIMOTA School, has finally been admitted to join his colleagues in the classroom. After a protracted back and forth with the school, a High Court judgment and an intervention by the Attorney General, Oheniba Kwekwin-Krabia's dream of attending the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, later in the furtherance of his goal to work in Silicon Valley, will start today in ACHIMOTA School. According to his mother, Mana Myers, they were welcomed to loud cheers by students and also a warm reception by officials of the school.
The day school prefect, the day students prefect, who approached us in a very warm and nice manner, told Oheneba, asked Oheneba whether, he was a day student or a brother, and he said he was a day student, and she said, oh, okay, then you are going to be my school son, and told us that, Oheneba was welcomed, nobody was going to do anything to him, and that if he had any problem, he should just approach her. And that was very reassuring. I told him he never wants to do ICT or IT, and he said, well, there is no IT course, but then there's a line of programs that he can do. We earlier on, when Oheneba was home with all this situation going on, he did some online classes, and on consultation with some educationists per his career path, they had advised on certain courses that he should do. Unfortunately, when we came, I think they also have their own programs or choice of courses that they put together. Oheneba happened to have done 2 of them, elective maths and a cons, but the rest, government and another subject, he had not, it's not part of what he has studied. Unfortunately, he have exams tomorrow. Yeah, so he reports today and tomorrow his exams. Yeah, so I told him, well, he haven't been home just wasting away. He's been studying, so I am hoping that he will be able to try his best.
I mean, the feeling for me or for him. It was wonderful. I was, very elated because of the fact that we finally got to this point where he can go into the school that he wanted to go. I've been here from 5 minutes to 6, and when we got here and went to the administration hall, our building, as we were standing outside, we heard a very loud noise, and when we look around, there were so many students at the building, and they were just welcoming us and showing their appreciation, and that made me feel very good.
Right. For him, what body language did he show?
Oh, well, he's not a person that is expressive like that, He was just smiling and, very calm with the situation. I think it's later that we will probably hear from him what took place.
I'm very grateful, sir. Thank you.
Now, an easy lies the head that wears a crown. That was exactly how Letitia Ewo felt on stage when she led her school, NIFA SHS, to qualify for the main National Science and Maths quiz scheduled for October. She could not hold back her tears as her school joined Okuapemang and WBM Zion SHS to qualify on day 3 of the Eastern Regional qualifiers. Maxwell Akbakba has more.
And do the will of God away. Integrity, excellence,
NIFA Secondary School has qualified for the National Championship, which will be happening in October. They've also qualified for the Eastern Region ABSA Championship, which will be happening here on Friday and Saturday. Congratulations.
I'm so happy. I feel very happy.
Okay.
I was scared of losing, but then by the grace of God, we won, and I'm so happy, and that's why I'm crying.
Why were you scared of losing?
See, the struggles that we have in school, if you don't win, like people will insult you, will tease you, they'll hurt you psychologically, emotionally, and everything. That is what comes after you don't win. But then since we have won, I'm very happy. Yes.
What should we expect at the national level?
Yes, we are going to do best, we are going to do great, and then we are going to win. We do best.
How many months do you have to prepare for this? How many years?
We have 4 months.
4 months, you have to prepare for this for 4 months. Okay. Let me find out from some of your students. Who wants to talk? Okay, tell me, how excited are you?
For how happy I am, I cannot tell it by words. But one thing that we all know, that we depend on God for it. And then the things that other society and what people are thinking that NIFA cannot do, we have done it. And we want to tell the society that this won't be our first time, but next year we go come, another year we go come, the next year we go come. This year.
Now, after a heated and insightful debate today, Yasantua Girls and Opokwari School have booked their space in the next stage of the Love FM's high school debate. Yas put up a spirited fight against the vociferous debaters of TIMAS for winner, Whilst Owas, who filled the auditorium with loud cheers, trampled supercars after a highly competitive debate. Love FM's Erastus Asaridonko has more.
Passion, support, solidarity came to play in the third and fourth debating encounter in the round of 16. Before the debating session, Opokuwari, Yasantua girls went into Jama antics to lift the spirits of their debaters. Yasantua won the first contest in the 234-222 against Fomana Tiara Mars. The motion was people should pass a political literacy test to be able to vote.
The chair, limiting voting rights to people with political capabilities will pave way for people with superior political judgment to elect our national leaders. I doubt any one of you here would ever want an incompetent teacher or doctor to make an important decision that affects his or her life. Then, how on earth should our friends from Fomena and Mars mount this stage to argue in favor of incompetent voters to be trusted with voting rights?
First, the chair, people passing political literacy tests before allowed to vote is undemocratic. A person, whether politically literate or not, should be allowed to take part in running of the state, especially through voting. In addition, panel of judges, I speak against the motion and I quote, people should have to pass a political literacy test to be able to vote, unquote, because voting is a civic responsibility and citizens should not be disenfranchised based on education, gender, religion, tribe, etc.
The other contest saw the Owarians put up a spirited charge after singing their anthem against supercars. The motion was traditional leadership is more effective for national development than modern leadership.
If there is any society that has developed without peace, that's my opponents here, educators. But I can assure you of the traditional leaders' role in ensuring and sustaining peace that has led to the development of our dear nation. The killing of Yana in May 2002, for instance, had been capitalized on by political leadership to fuel and foment insecurity and volatility in the Tagbon kingdom for years while development eluded them. But thanks to the prowess and wise counsel of the three eminent chiefs, Otumfo Oseitu II, Asante Hene, Tuntumba, Borisa Japa the First, Jabonra, and now Bahugu Abdullah Mahami Sheriga Nairi. Today, the 16-year Tagbon kingdom crisis has been resolved.
The traditional leadership lacks the machinery to link us to the global world for effective national development. The chair, from Ghana's partnership with France, which is worth 1.4 billion euros and has over 60 French companies coming to invest in the nation. One thing is made obvious, the chair, that the benefits the nation gets from these alliances are towards national development. Have you ever heard of chiefs forming alliances with nations for national development? What they do is the community development.
Owas won with a score of 238 against 213 for Kumasi Anglican Senior High School.
So the grand total, Supercars had 213, Opokuwari School had 238. So Opokuwari School advances to the next stage of the competition.
You're live on Joy News today with me, Daniel Daze. Congratulations to all the winning schools in the NSMQ and the Love FM High School debate. Up next is Business with Darryl Crowell.
Hi, welcome. Time for business. My name is Darryl Kwao. MTN Ghana says it is repositioning its business strategy for the next 5 years to implement new policy directives that seek to create opportunities for small businesses to thrive. Chief Executive Salom Adadivo spoke to Joy Business at the official launch of the 25th anniversary in Ghana.
Our vision is to lead the delivery of a bold new digital world to our customers. And this underpins our sustained investment in the MTN Ghana business in the areas of rural connectivity, encapsulating everywhere you go, and in implementing digital platforms to give the opportunity to our customers to live a modern, connected life. To achieve this, we have repositioned our strategy from Bright to Ambition 2025, which aims to build the largest and most valuable platform business with a focus on Africa. Ambition 2025 is anchored on 5 pillars: fintech solutions, Ayoba, enterprise network as a service, and API marketplace. In this strategy, we see exciting opportunities for mobile commerce where fintech intersects with our Ayoba business. We're hoping to aggregate APIs to accelerate the digital ecosystem expansion. Example, a customer should never need to interact with an agent to manage their MTN experience. All SMEs should be able to become digital without IT skills in-house by leveraging our platforms, and by so doing, can pay taxes digitally through mobile money.
In other news, MINISTERIAL Bank has posted a 165% increase in profit after tax at the end of the 2020 financial year. The increase from 4.3 million in 2019 to 11.5 million cedis was recorded when the COVID-19 pandemic had heightened. Officials say the bank devised strategies that address the uncertainties businesses and individuals were faced with during the period. Prince Apia reports.
The 2020 financial report of MINISTERIAL Bank saw deposits increase by 42.8% during the period. Profits after tax also increased from 4.3 million Ghana cedis in 2019 to 11.5 million Ghana cedis in 2020. These figures were recorded in spite of the difficulties presented by the novel COVID-19 protocols. Dr. Alexander Asma, a CEO of the bank.
People were careful in spending money. People were not doing businesses as they used to do. So there was an opportunity to mobilize funds that were in the hands of people that they were not spending or they were not going out with. So we saw that, and then we crafted a strategy to take advantage of that. So we realized that our deposit mobilization went up from 254 million to 363 million, a 42.65% growth in the pandemic. We also realized that was the time that people also needed funds for consumption. That is when people also needed money to reinvest in their business because of the way the COVID has impacted their businesses. So people were seeing the risk because it was COVID. If you lend to a company, a business, and the business doesn't perform, it will collapse and you can't recover your money. But we saw the opportunity.
And because the local economies in the operational areas of the bank revolves around MSMEs and farmers, management of the bank has set aside a special fund to increase the credit disbursement in these areas.
And we have to empower people economically. We can't take our minds and our eyes off our farmers. So we developed a new strategy for which we can lend to these farmers. And that is to approach them from a group lending approach, where we are able to put a group of farmers in the same community together, give them the same orientation, and let them give themselves a solidarity guarantee from each person so that we are able to lend them. Last year, we gave over 32 million cedis to farmers. That's over 10,000 farmers in our community, mostly cocoa farmers. And this year, we are doing about 42 million Ghana cedis to the same farmers. And the beautiful thing is that last year, we were able to recover significantly. If you lend to farmers and we are able to do over 95% recovery, it's really, really great. And so we are motivated to do it more because
Executive Director of the Association of Rural Bank, Comfort Owusu, is entreating the public to patronize the industry.
Rural banks are doing so much, building schools, boreholes, providing services for their communities. So if you are in the community and you save with rural banks, the benefit comes back to you.
The 37th annual general meeting coincided with the 40th anniversary celebrations of the existence of the bank. A good number of the old and new staff who have distinguished themselves and contributed to its success were awarded and acknowledged. Prince Apia reporting.
That's business for now. Coming up in sports, Black Stars head coach CK Akono says he has an idea about the threat Morocco and Ivory Coast will pose to his team in their friendly matches to be played next week. More in sports with Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. Stay tuned.
Hello, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us for Sports on Joy News today. I am Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. Black Stars head coach CK Akono says he has an idea about the threat Morocco and Ivory Coast will pose to his team in their friendly matches to be played next week. According to him, his technical team does extensive monitoring of opponents, and that gives him a picture of their strengths and weaknesses. There's more in the following report. The two friendly matches against Morocco and Ivory Coast serves as an opportunity for the technical team of the Black Stars to assess the qualities of players available at their disposal. Head coach of the team, CK Akono, says he has an idea about the strength and weaknesses of the opponents because of the extensive coverage his technical team has provided.
As to what we know about the opponent, of course, it will not be appropriate for me to make it public, okay? And we have a very good video analyst who is doing a good job, and that Zimbabwe, South Africa, Ethiopia, we have a way of watching them and how we can approach the game, and that is why it's also important for us to prepare very well. This, I'm grateful to the FA for, within this short period of time, to organize these two friendlies, which is very, very appropriate and good for us.
In the last Black Stars collapse for the African Cup of Nations qualifiers against South Africa and Sao Tome and Principe, about 14 local players were given an opportunity to train with the team, with 12 of them subsequently making the final squad. Akono says the home-based players deserve an equal chance of playing for the senior national team, and he expects that whenever they are invited, they will give their all to maintain their place in the team.
I think it will be fair for you to understand that this time around we've had a lot of local guys, or home-based players. I prefer to say that, home-based players. And the last time we had a call-up, it was about 14, if I'm mistaken, maybe 14. About 8 now. And now about 8, okay? And so we are in a very, very good process. All that I want to tell our home-based players that they are coming to the national team should make them aware that there's a chance for them to come and start, not to sit on the bench or somewhere, you know. And so
good afternoon, welcome to Showbiz here on Joy News today. Now, the much anticipated State of the Industry address by Danzola Shatawale took place Wednesday, with the musician highlighting some of the industry flaws and possible ways to amend them. Amongst them was calling for players to help identify the original Ghanaian sound and owning it on the global stage.
In the States, I was in business meetings with different foreign stakeholders and investors. And one question they all seemed to ask was, what kind of music do Ghanaians do? And the question was one that kept me thinking. Indeed, I was speaking with them as a dancehall artist, but they still needed to know the kind of music we do here in Ghana. Basically, they wanted to know what genre we are known for as a nation, and that I found interesting. I want to propose that we as music makers and stakeholders come together to identify one genre that can be attributed to all music works coming from our parts of the world. Let's do this for our industry to give it the global attention we have long desired. Secondly, I want to plead with musicians in Ghana to pay some more attention to the business side of the craft. One thing that I have long campaigned for is for the artists to take and see their talent as a career and as a business entity. Let's learn to make money with our talents. Let's invest in educating ourselves.
Away from Shatta Wale, veteran Ghanaian actress Akofe Ejiani says it is about time Ghanaians and Africa as a whole start telling their own stories through movies. According to her, Africans have good stories that needs to be highlighted for the global market.
And there are a lot of good stories from Africa. We have to start telling our own stories. And we've got plenty of those. We've got the expertise, we've got the weather, we've got everything that it takes. There are content creators out there. So all we need is the funding, investors and funding to bring out all these wonderful stories that are sitting on the shelves. So I think it's good, and especially those MIME awards is the first time that they're going to be incorporating sports and other areas of entertainment in any industry award scheme. So I think it's a good one.
On that note, we end showbiz here on Joy News today. My name is Becky. Over to you, Daniel.
Thank you very much, Becky. And this is how we end this bulletin of Joy News today. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. Up next is the Marketplace. See you tomorrow.